Thanks for the offer of the
floor.
That's
good. I think.
Yeah, I want to make sure he's double checking right there. So.
Okay.
What's that? Thanks for the suite.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Hey guys, I gotta thank Chris out loud for hooking me up with a place to sleep this weekend. So if you all see him, if you could somehow buy him an adult beverage and just put it on your expense report and send it to me, I'll take care of it. But yeah, give a round of applause for Chris so I didn't have to sleep on a floor.
I'll let you just say. All right. Next talk is going to be Benjamin Brown, who's presenting on defending doxing. All right. Thanks, Benjamin.
Yeah. Hey everybody, as you mentioned, my name is Benjamin Brown. Can everybody hear fine? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, great. And this is about actually defending against doxing in multiple layers. That's A, understanding what it is, B, understanding how it happens, and C, what to do about it. So, of course, the About Me slide, who I am and what I do. I work for Akamai Technologies, and I work on their customer security incident response team. Whenever they're having an ongoing attack or we have knowledge that there's about to be an attack with a customer, then we'll go in and help them deal with that. And then afterwards help them to harden further in case of future attacks. I also do systems architecture reviews. So whenever there's a new product coming out for our company, I'll go with the design team and the developers and help them to think adversarially and critically about the system that they're designing and the systems that it will touch, and looking at it in terms of an ecosystem rather than individual components in a vacuum. I also do buzzword threat research and buzzword actor profiling, cyber drink. And also training and workshops for security and adversarial thinking. All right, so what are we talking about here? Doxing, and then I'm also going to be talking a little bit about swatting. So doxing defined here is publicly releasing a person's identifying information, including, but not limited to, full name, date of birth, address, phone number, and pictures. Oftentimes that also includes things like social security number and information about their loved ones and those that they're close to. And when I say swatting, what I'm talking about is causing a SWAT team to go to somebody's house, and bust in because the SWAT team believes that there is an ongoing issue at that house. Typically like a kidnapping or death or slaying or something like that. All right, so why should we care about these things? Well, there's a large range of impacts from doxing happening. When your public information is leaked, and leaked in such a way that it is encouraged that you're targeted for further persecution. And it can lead from, basic pranking and gray marketing, upticks in that to information that's sensitive to you or your family members. Being put out there, as well as online and in-person harassment, bullying, stalking. There is also identity theft, especially financial identity theft, that is often in tandem with being doxed. The ability for somebody to swat you now that they have information about you and where you live or where you work. And also you could be easily targeted for physical attack. And we'll see some instances of that later on. So, the first tier, the sort of play tier here, you could start getting crank calls, which that's obnoxious, but you can deal with that. But in that same sort of sphere is the more malicious calls. People trying to social engineer you based on the information that they already have about you, or someone trying to scam you. Based on inside information that you might not know they have. Then another, with physical access, it could be something as simple as flaming bag of dog poo being left on your doorstep, or something a little more serious, like having your tires slashed. Oh, sorry. Having your tires slashed, yeah. And that's also especially if you're like rushing, trying to get to work, or you have an important meeting. That's something that could really have a major impact in your life. So those are theoretical things. Let's get into some real instances where this has had an impact. So this was, I obscured the names in this, of course, but this was a fellow a few years ago who was working for a financial services firm in New York, or excuse me, in Boston, and he wrote to his boss October 31st, at almost 4 p.m., and he said, "Hey, Paul, I just wanted to let you know that I will not be able to come into work tomorrow. Something came up at home, and I have to go to New York for the next couple of days. I apologize for the delayed notice," and the subject says family emergency. So he's letting his boss know, I have to rush out now. I won't be able to be here when I said I would be here. I've got a family emergency to deal with. So the next day, at around 5 p.m., his boss writes back and CCs the director and says, "Hey, Tim, thanks for letting us know. I hope everything is okay in New York. Cool wand." Cool wand? Well, that's weird. Why would he say that? And why did he CC the director? Well, turns out, unbeknownst to Tim, that even though he was really, really careful about what information he let out about his family emergency and what was going on, some of his friends and friends of friends weren't so careful about that and ended up outing him on social media. So he had a really nice wand. He went to a Halloween party. It wasn't actually a family emergency. So even though he was, being pretty good about his OPSEC, his friends and friends of friends tagged him and then wrote long posts about everything that they were doing, playing Edward 40 hands, taking bong hits, all of that stuff at this party. He lost his job. So this is, one of the impacts of having a lot of your sort of private life being put out there by other people. Now, a more serious case. During the Boston Marathon bombing, there was a group on both 4chan and on Reddit that wanted to play Internet Detective. They wanted to go ahead and try and find out, okay, who is this bomber or set of bombers? We're probably more equipped to handle it than the FBI or people who do it professionally because we're on the internet. So one of the people that they really started pointing out was Sunil Tripathi. Sunil Tripathi had been missing since March 16th, and when he was being identified as a potential suspect by these online vigilante groups, it was starting to be picked up by the media and gain legitimacy that way. People ended up finding all of his personal information and putting it together in a docs and dropping that information for him and his family to be targeted. Because it was believed that he had perpetrated the bombings. So it turns out it wasn't him. He wasn't the person who did it. And his family was receiving death threats, harassment, drive-bys to their houses. And what had actually happened was, before the bombing, Sunil committed suicide. His body was later found in the Providence River. So his family was having to deal with not only the death of their son, but all of this online and in-person harassment and death threats and things like that, all because somebody decided to put together their personal information and drop it out there, falsely. Another case, when Amanda Todd took her life after being consistently cyberstalked and blackmailed, Anonymous again, wanted to go and play White Knight and find out who did it and make him pay for it. So they ended up putting together docs on a guy, including all of his social security number, where he lived, where he worked, all of the contact information for him and his bosses, and released all of that information, encouraging people to target him. It ended up being the wrong person again, and he had to quit his job, move across the country, and legally change his name. He had to actually quit his job because his bosses told him if he didn't put a stop to what was going on, because they were also being harassed, that they would fire him. Again, a case of somebody who has been doxxed and it has really seriously negative impacts in their life. Another case, during right after the shooting of Michael Brown and during the Ferguson riots, again, Anonymous wanted to find out who the shooter was of Michael Brown. And so they thought they got the right guy. Again, it was the wrong guy. And they also ended up doxing his mother, because that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. So it turns out not only did they receive death threats and items thrown at their house and drive-bys and things like that, but they also had another level of financial ID theft. Accounts were opened in their name, cards were opened in their names, and they had their credit scores and their credit in general completely ruined. They're still working on getting all of that taken care of and fixed. And it's just an ongoing nightmare for them because some kids decided to out all of their private information and target them for all of this mayhem. Okay, so those sorts of things are scary, and their impacts to your, your financials, your sense of mind, things like that. But with swatting, it goes one step further, and that now it's your life that's on the line. When you've got a bunch of people, especially if they have a no-knock warrant, and the SWAT team comes in, and they're busting through your doors, your windows, especially if it's late at night, early in the morning, and if they're not properly identifying themselves or you're still in a haze, there's a lot that can go on in that situation where you, your dog, another family member can end up receiving serious to mortal bodily harm. And there are lots of instances of this. You can go online and see videos or read about stories of SWAT raids on the wrong target that have gone very poorly. You can also see where kids are, online gamers are targeting other gamers, pissed off because of some perceived slight or another. And you can see videos that were a live capture of this going on, where somebody was angry at somebody else who was recording their gameplay and ended up calling the SWAT team on them. And you can see in the background, when they're recording their gameplay, the SWAT team actually coming in, throwing them on the floor, going through their house, all of that. And some of them are pretty terrifying. Also, during Gamergate, a lot of the females and males who spoke out for the way that women were treated in both gaming in general and gaming reporting, they were also being targets for swatting. A number of them had to, deal with the SWAT team coming in multiple times to their house, and the both physical and mental distress that comes with that. Ashton Kutcher was swatted twice because somebody thought it would be funny, and Brian Krebs has been swatted many, many times because a lot of the reporting that he does has serious financial and livelihood impacts on cyber criminals. And if you don't feel like doing the swatting yourself, or you don't want to get in trouble for doing it, or don't want it to be tied to you, then you can hire somebody else to do it. So this was on one of the darknet markets. This was a swatting as a service. If you paid this person $100, yeah, it's the new SaaS. If you paid somebody $100 in Bitcoins, then within 10 days they would have that target swatted. Well, that could be somebody just offering the service. We don't know if it really works. Turns out they actually have really good ratings and feedback. So this service has been, very highly rated and used many times. And lots of people here saying it was worth it. The person really does it. They delivered their promise. I got the police involved without being tracked myself. I'm very happy. Yeah, that's terrible. And you can see the dates. This was actually, the last one was June 19th. It was pretty recent. I also want to point out that this isn't just a North American or Western phenomenon. We also see analogous examples of this whole doxing phenomenon in Asia, especially in China, with something called the human flesh search engine. And what this started out with was a way for a group of people on a forum to gather lots of information about somebody who was doing something that was malicious or unethical, typically in research circles, which that's a really big deal in China right now, and also for targeting police or military officials who were performing human rights violations. And now it has sort of evolved into anybody who has a beef with anybody else will make up some story about how they were wronged and get this whole group of people and then friends of their friends and friends of their friends to gather all of this information about a person and then use that for nefarious purposes. We also see doxing in the Eastern European former Soviet bloc. It's a little different there in that most of the targets are celebrities or high-profile figures, and these are traded like baseball cards. It's, I've got the docs of this person. If you give me the docs of that person, I'll swap with you. There was even a site where you could go and get them and then also pay for specific targets. This site was taken down probably about 6 months ago and then remirrored later on a Tor site, an Onion site. And you can see some of the people that were doxed here. This includes like their social security number, their credit reports, all of their house's address, their phone numbers, which if you're a celebrity, having your personal cell phone number out there is a pretty big deal. So, man, this guy, Ashton Kutcher again, getting targeted. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, Hulk Hogan, Donald Trump. I don't feel so bad about that. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Al Gore, Tiger Woods, Jerry Sandusky, again, high-profile character, Chris Christie, Bill Gates, and John Brennan, CIA director. I bet he was really not happy about that. Octomom as well. Okay, so this isn't just used on unsuspecting or sort of innocent people or victims. This is also used, from skitty to skitty or hacker to hacker. In the underground forums, typically it's when two skitties are like, you'll never be able to hack me, I'm undoxable. You'll see a lot of them will have like the tag undoxable next to their name or something like that. And then, of course, that's inviting someone to try and dox them, which eventually they do because their OPSEC is terrible. And then also for sellers of underground services like credit card thieves or cryptors or somebody who's offering actual plastic hardware or machines for making IDs. When they want to corner a market, sometimes what they'll do is they'll dox everyone else who's selling in that market and then swat them, get them sort of outed. That way they can take over the buyers from them. It's also a response to people who are labeled as rippers or grifters. Typically they're called grifters in the Russian forums, but rippers in most of the English ones. They're people who offer a service and don't deliver and then take the money. So a lot of times people will try and dox them and then either swat or have something like that information sent to the police for their local area or something like that. And then also among darknet market vendors, it's used mostly in two ways. It's used as a coercive element in having, if another seller becomes a buyer, then when you're a buyer, you give up your information so they can ship you physical goods. Unless you're using a drop, that's really bad because now the buyer has your information and they can use that to make you finish the exchange early before they actually send you the goods. Or they can use that information to threaten you to give them more money or they're going to out you to the cops. And then another, it doesn't happen as often, but it's happened a few times. A darknet market vendor has kept all of the information of their buyers and created doxes and found more information and augmented those doxes with them in order to get a sort of get out of jail free card. If they get caught by the police, they'll say, hey, I can give you all this information about all these people who are buying illicit things from me if you lighten my sentence or I turn informant, something like that. So don't buy stuff on the Silk Road knockoffs, guys. All right, so how do doxers do this? How do they get all of this information about us? Well, of course, one of the first places that they'll start is the Googles. They'll start with basic search operators to narrow down their searches, especially if you have a rather common name. And they'll augment it, using their Google foo, which is really just using operators. There's even a site, a Google hacker site that does a lot of this automated for you. If they have either your username or usernames or email address or known email addresses, then they'll try to match an email address to username and vice versa. Usually how they'll do that is they'll knock off the @whatever.com and then try and search just for that portion of it. And that'll link a lot of times to other accounts that you've used on other forums, things like that. They'll also, for sites where the information was ephemeral or you thought you've deleted it, a lot of times they can go into something like the Wayback Machine and find an older snapshot of a forum or site where you've said something or given up some information. So even if you've deleted it, it might still be there. They also look at variations of usernames and email addresses. If you're hottotrot@hotmail.com, then they'll look up hottotrot2 or hottotrot1 or something like that. And there are actual tools that'll go through all of these variations automatically for them and try and find where they're in use. Speaking of tools, there are some ways to automate this for them, and I'll go over each one of these. So the harvester is a lot of fun. You put in either an individual or that's more useful with looking at entities like businesses, nonprofits, things like that. And what you'll do is you'll put in the main domain, and it'll automatically search for you on social media, on Google, Bing. I don't know if that's ever helpful. And it'll also look, do a recursive DNS lookups. It'll do, try and find more information about the net blocks for anything it finds. It'll also do DNS zone information for the entity that you've put in there. So that's one way that they can start to target your business, or if you're a consultant or you have your own business, get more information that way. Maltego is useful. Not only for its transforms, but it's useful in getting your brain to think about something in a different way. Because you're not just looking at a list of information, you're looking at an actual visual representation of a social or a relationship network. And so that's useful in having you come up with new, inventive ways to find out more information about somebody and the other entities that they work with and that they touch. Creepy is just like it sounds. It's really creepy. It's a Python script, cree.py, and what that does is it uses Facebook's API to do searches to find information that you wouldn't be able to find if you were using a browser. So the API is powerful in the amount of information that it gives out, especially if you've done a really good job of locking down your Facebook account. What it will do is it'll search through friends of friends and then friends accounts to map out information about you, pictures and things that you've been tagged in, and it also leaks out more information that could be used to build a profile on you. ReconNG is a framework that pulls together some of the functionality of the previous tools and adds functionality of other tools as well, and it also acts as sort of it keeps track of everything that you're doing to make sure you're not, doubling your efforts or things like that. It's almost like a forensics report. It'll actually do a nice little, output of a report, and this is all for doing recon both on individuals and on entities. One of the next places that doxers will typically look for information is social media, which is just a treasure trove. People's Facebooks, their Twitter accounts, LinkedIn is a big one, especially for giving information about somebody's professional life. Through those methods, you can get contact info, family member information, who their friends are, who their acquaintances are, where they physically tend to hang out, what their patterns are, what their interests and skills are, the jobs and places that they worked in the past and where they are currently, who their colleagues are. This is all really good information for social engineering more information, especially if you start to pose as people who are friends or acquaintances or colleagues. And then also, it's a great place to get answers to people's security questions. A lot of times, when you put in your security question, it'll be something like my first car, or my favorite pet, or something like that. Those are things that people tend to talk about, and like their Twitter streams and their Facebook streams, especially if you go back in time to when they were like in college or high school or something like that. So if you can get their answers to security questions, you can get into things like their email account, which gets you into pretty much all of their accounts. An example, a visual example of the type of information that Facebook asks you for, and if you choose to give, it'll give to other people unless you specifically tell it not to. Your birth date, again, good for guessing passwords. Your children and your children's ages, good for guessing passwords. Your physical location, your hometown, your relationship status and anniversary, again, good stuff to put into a password script. Also, your email address, your your AIM name, that's good for phishing, or getting them to click on something malicious. Also, information like your activities and interests, really good for social engineering. So it's not just Facebook, Twitter, High Five. Does anybody in here actually use High Five? No. All right. Nobody in here is from Brazil. Got it. All right. So there's other places that act like social media, but we don't typically think of them as social media. Forums, especially interest forums or hobby forums. Mailing groups or mailing lists. Yahoo groups. Those are places where people tend to give up information about their birth date, which is usually on your profile for that website. Your age, also usually on the profile, and location. What your hobbies are, and this gets really tricky, especially if it's kind of a weird forum for most people. Like if you're really into ponies and you talk about it a lot, and you use the same username there that you use other places, that's something people can find. Also, they can see your chat history or your posting history and who you've talked to a lot, which gives them a username that is trusted for you that they can pose as to get more information. Also, forums, mailing lists typically are public, the information in them a lot of times, especially if they're mailman mailing lists, the archives are available. But also in terms of forums, those get breached all the time. It's not a matter of if that information is going to be leaked, it's when it's going to be leaked. An example of a pretty impactful breach that ended up causing a lot of people harm and suffering, especially for their families, was the Adult Friend Finder breach. The sheer number of military and government accounts that was leaked, as well as what their fetishes were, who they were talking to. We saw some cases of high-profile members that were leaked through Adult Friend Finder leak that were being blackmailed as well. So that's another thing that can come out of those breaches. Yahoo groups. Is anybody in here a member of a free cycle group? That's usually a pretty big one. So there, typically what you're doing is if you've got something to give that's free, you want to let them know where you are. On the side they say don't actually post where you are, but people do it all the time. They say, hey, I live blah, 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 blah. There's a mattress on my, on the side of my house. Come get it. It's free. So now they've got, if they know your username on Yahoo, now they've got your address. Who is information? So who is information? You have to post your full name, your phone number, your fax number if you still use one or are from the 80s, email addresses, and your physical address. So here's an example of one. This is for searchenginejournal.com. We have Lauren Baker's full name, her email address, her address, her phone number, all of that is there in that who is information. So we'll talk a little bit later about something that you can do about that. So there's, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of privacy settings for using a third party as sort of in between you and your who is information. And there's also a downside to that we'll talk about. All right, so the real scary guys, the data brokers. Data brokers and data clearing houses like Spokeo and Intellius. Intellius is probably one of the largest ones for information on individuals. For information on companies, I would say Hoover's is probably the largest. People, PQ, there's a whole bunch of different ones. If you haven't looked yourself up on these, I would suggest you do it. It can be very creepy. A lot of the free information that you can get without having to pay money includes full name of people, a lot of times including the maiden name, their age, their current and former addresses, their current and former phone numbers. Sometimes it's parts of the phone number are starred out, so all you have to do is look through like 4 of them, and they all have different numbers in the phone numbers that are starred out, so you can just use that to actually match them and get a full phone number. And then it'll list family members, their ages, their current and past addresses and phone numbers, things like that. And then if you pay, you get things like their criminal records, their financial records, if they've had any court-related finance issues, bankruptcies, things like that. Their school records sometimes, medical records sometimes even, and retail activity information. You know, when you go into a place to buy something and they say, hey, what's your, your email address and your zip code? That information, along with other information, is sometimes bundled up and then sold off to third parties, which ends up a lot of times in these data clearing houses. So you can see an example of what Intellius offers. They offer 3 different levels. For the first one, you can get, of course, the date of birth, their average income, their address history, the value of their home, things like that. And then if you pay a little more, you can get their, oh yeah, that one comes with a background check. Their property records, social security number. And then if you want to pay a little more, you'll get things like liens that they might have on their properties, aliases that they've used in the past, who their neighbors have been, their marriage history, bankruptcy history, any judgments or lawsuits, family death records, divorces, all of that stuff. So this one's rather insidious. This is a company that's a data broker, Spokeo. They actually advertise that they will uncover personal photos, videos, and secrets guaranteed. I don't know how they sleep at night. Public records. This is another area where a doxer can get lots of information. And here they can get business and corporation information, deeds, patents, and trademarks. All of those typically leak information about your business partners, your addresses, histories of dealings with different people, as well as mappings to other entities that you've been involved with. You can see here in State of Missouri articles of incorporation. For a nonprofit here, it lists the full names of all the people involved in the incorporation, their addresses, and sometimes it also includes phone numbers. This is a Buncombe County GIS and deed information website, and here you can see it'll give for a piece of property, or you can search by owner, you can search by a number of other things. You can find out their current address, the address of the property that you're looking up, how much it was worth when it was sold, how much it's worth now, who owned it before. This is really useful in social engineering, especially if it was just sold or transferred, because posing as somebody who is related to or in some way affiliated with the person that you just had a retail deal with, you're likely to open up any attachment that's sent from them. Then some more information that it typically gives, especially if somebody wants to publicly or personally come to you or your property or plan something that involves that. It gives any improvements you've done over time, and some sites also will give the exact layout and square footage, including a map of where everything is in terms of your house and land layout. So that's useful for planning if somebody wants to be a creeper or do something more insidious. If you've given political contributions, a lot of times your name, address, your political affiliation, and your donation amounts are attached to that. Donation amounts, especially over time, can give an indicator of somebody's income level. And also, political affiliation is useful for social engineering or phishing. If you know that they are very into a particular issue, typically you can tell this not only by political contributions, but by petition information as well, then you can get them to click on something or go to a link that seems to really be in their interest. The petition signing and petition for recall signing, a lot of that is public data. There is your name, your geographic location when you signed it, as well as more fuel for social engineering, especially if it's hot button issues for you. Another area where people can get a lot of information about you is EXIF data in your media. We were talking about metadata earlier in the CTF training. There's a really good tool for that called MetaGoofil, and that one's really useful for extracting like PDF data, data from documents and things like that. But when I'm talking about this EXIF data here, it's times and dates, software information, device computer information, and GPS coordinates. Which is really useful, especially in pictures and videos, for nailing down when somebody is at a place, how often they go there, if they can get lots of media, and where exactly it is. If you take a picture of your kids at the park, now whoever has that EXIF data knows exactly where that park is, when you were there, and what kind of camera you used, things like that, what kind of phone you have. So here's an example. This is metadata from a picture that was taken with a Nikon D300. It gives the date that the image was taken as well as the latitude and longitude. Social engineering, incredibly powerful. There is, if you hang out on, and I suggest that you not because it'll make you go insane, hang out on script kiddie forums or IRC chans or chats in general. They like to, especially when they're doxing somebody, they like to really boast about their social engineering skills. So some of the things that they boast about doing is calling somebody's ISP or their phone company and pretending to be a spouse or a delegate for that person. And if they act angry enough or loud enough, then typically the person on the other line is a tier 1. They're not getting paid enough to deal with that, and they'll just give up information. Sometimes that includes call history, phone logs, things like that. Also, calling current or former places of work, acting as somebody who's doing a background check or somebody who is doing calling for a reference. You can get a lot of information about someone and their professional place of employment. Also, calling family members, acting as a friend, and calling friends, acting as a family member. When you call them and you're acting like there's an emergency going on with the person that's your target, you can get a lot of personal information. So, what do we do about all this scary stuff? I'll go into some defense methods, and then I'll go into another section if you want to get like really paranoid about it, which is a lot of fun actually. So you of course want to lock down and tighten your security and privacy settings on social media like Facebook, Google+. I suggest just shutting Google+ down altogether. LinkedIn, I don't think Google Wave is still alive, so don't worry about that. Also restrict the personal information that you share out. You don't need to constantly be checking into Foursquare, telling everybody where you are and that you're not at home at that moment. Foursquare has been used repeatedly by burglars. And also vet connection requests. LinkedIn is not Pokemon. You don't have to catch them all. Make sure it's actually somebody that you know or that you've met, because when they get into your LinkedIn profile, not only do they see lots of information about you, but they can then look at information about your company and your the people who you're in relationship with. Also use the untag option rather judiciously. You can go in and for photos of like maybe you dressed up like a fairy at a Halloween party when you were supposed to be working, you can untag yourself in those. I like to do that a lot. And you can also request when somebody takes a picture, a group picture, just say, hey, please don't tag me in this. You can block and uninstall third-party apps, especially in Facebook. You should really do this. No, you do not need to be playing Farmville all the time. Third-party apps get a lot of access to your data. Even if you lock down your account, it bypasses those lockdown methods. Third-party apps have been known to be sold off to other companies, and that data used for more sort of gray area enterprises, targeted marketing, things like that, and that information being sucked out of your account and information being sucked out of your friends' accounts because friends get a lot of access to your information. And then that being used as a bargaining chip or a means of profit. All right, of course, basic security in terms of your passphrases, use strong passphrases. Notice I'm saying passphrases instead of passwords. If somebody's going to try and brute your passphrase, it's going to be a lot more difficult than a shorter password. Wherever it's available, please, please, please use two-factor authentication. It's just another layer for them to have to get your actual physical device or your physical phone instead of being able to do it from their basement. Also, don't reuse passwords. We see this a lot at Akamai. We see a lot of our retail and airline customers and hotel customers that constantly have account checkers that are being, that are going from botnets against their sites. What they'll do is they'll take breaches from forums, from RockU, of course, but also from other areas where, especially where the username and the password or the email and the password have been breached. And they'll take all of that and they'll put it into a file and then have the bot network just hammer tons of different sites with that exact information. Because a lot of people reuse usernames or emails and passwords, there's a high level of efficacy for them in that. And they'll go in and if there's credit card information saved into the account, they'll use that. They'll take it out. If there is, address and personal information in there, they can use that as well. Or if that account is linked to something that can purchase goods or gift certificates, they'll use that a lot as well. If you have old accounts that you're not using, like old forum accounts, or God forbid a dead journal account or live journal, I shudder to think about the things I used to post on those. Go back in there and download whatever you want to save and clean them out. That way that information isn't hanging around for people to use against you later. Again, with disused accounts, if they have the option to actually delete the account outright, that's useful because then your username or email will no longer publicly be tied to that service. Also, retail sites, don't let them save your data. They're going to get breached at some point, and then chances are they're not actually keeping your credit card or personal information in a very secure way, so that'll get leaked if you allow them to save that information. For who is information, you can use private registration. So you've got, instead of your actual information there, this third party that you're paying for their service is typically pretty cheap. The who is information will show up as their general information instead of yours. Now, can anybody point out a potential issue with using a third party to fill in your who is data with? Well, that's one of them. Yeah. Anything else? Well, so in some ways, they have a claim to your domain account now. So there are companies out there that are not as well-known privacy companies that will email you directly when they say you've got a new registration. Luckily, a lot of this goes to spam, and they'll offer privacy services. And what they're actually doing is they're looking to then be able to, especially if you're with a domain name service that is not very good at double and triple checking, who's calling in. They'll say, hey, I'm obviously the company that's managing this domain for them. Look, I'm on the who is information. I want to redirect it to these DNS servers or to this URL, which then may be serving malicious stuff or ads or something like that. So these data clearinghouse companies that you can go in and buy information about people from, all of them that I've seen do have opt-out methods. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get to the actual opt-out, or it's like really, really like 2 pixels, the little link for it. And if people want these slides, there is at the bottom of the slides a link to a place that has a list of a whole bunch of them and what you do to opt out. For Spokio, it's spokio.com/opt_out/new. There, the verification that they need is just your email address. People, it's the same, just the email address, Zoom info email address. Some of them require a little more information. I'll let this guy take a picture. And for white pages, they want your email address and phone number. So Intellius kind of puts you in a weird position, and that to opt out, they want a copy of your government-issued ID. So I'm trying to get you to take down my information. I don't want to give you more personal information. So that one's a little tough. It's, again, going to be a personal risk call. You know, you want to weigh your options there and see if it's really worth it for you. There are government-issued IDs you can get that don't have a lot of information on them. So that might be an option for you as well. Right, so if you're a very public person, then you're going to have to be on top of this constantly, because it's just going to keep renewing, and you can just keep, you know, you can even, there are services that I'll talk about a little later that will do it for you as well. If you're incorporating, or you're trying to get a patent or a trademark, or you know, something like that, one of the things that you can do to keep your name and your business partners' names and information out of public records is to register a fictitious or doing business as name. A lot of states don't actually require that you register this fictitious name with them. You can just use it, and you just keep using the same name. For the ones that allow you, that require you to register, you can do this at the clerk's office, the county clerk's office, or a lot of state government websites will have a link to it. Or they'll have a special office for doing business as or fictitious name registration. And what this does is it'll cover your, of course, you and your partner's names, as well as your LLC or corporation location information if you choose so as well. And then sort of related to that, for public records about land and housing that you own, you don't necessarily have to have your personal information on there. What you can do is you can set up a land trust through a real estate lawyer, or you can set up a holding corporation. Again, if you want to set up the holding corporation, you can add another layer and do that as a fictitious name. And then what that'll do is that, again, it'll protect your name, address, etc. What will show up is the land trust's name and information, or your lawyer's name and information. And it'll also keep the sales price private, which is an added bonus there. In terms of EXIF data, what you want to do there is you can either go in and for each piece of media that you want to post or let out somewhere, you can go in and clean it manually yourself, or you can just go in and turn off the location tagging information or option on devices. A lot of them it's on by default, so you can go into your iPhone, your Android phone, your new digital camera, or your video recording device, and turn off the location tagging, and there are other metadata options that you can turn off as well. In terms of tools to go in and delete EXIF data, I really like EXIF tool. This one works on Windows, Mac, and Unix, Linux. It's really useful not only for deleting metadata, but if you want to go one step further, you can put in false metadata. You know, false GPS data, false time and location, you know, stuff like that. And on that note, we'll move into the super paranoid level of maskirovka, which is deception. And that word's a term from Russian military tactics, and it was used very successfully during the Cold War. If anybody's familiar with the Bay of Pigs or with the Cuban Missile Crisis, their use of maskirovka was very effective and almost led to very catastrophic outcomes. And what that is using lots of false information seeded with truth. That way it all looks like noise. So, how can we apply this in terms of our online presence? Well, we can use different and meaningless email accounts, usernames, and passwords for each and every website that we sign up for or that we use. And not only is this useful in not allowing people to link accounts, account to account, and then link them to you, but it acts as sort of a canary in the coal mine. When you start getting spam or something from, at a particular email address or using a particular username, then you know that that information has somehow been given or sold or leaked. And also employing pseudonyms, not using your real name online. Being wary of cloud services. I don't really expect you to raise your hand, but anybody here familiar with the fappening? Okay, so this is a lot of celebrities and non-celebrities had their nude photos and videos leaked. The vast majority of this leaked information came from their iCloud accounts. So anything that you're putting out there in the cloud, then if that service or the servers that is hosting that information are if there's data exfiltrated from that, then that could be your data if you're using that service. Also, in terms of your phone number, you can rotate your phone numbers. You don't have to actually give out your core phone number. You can use services like Google Voice, like Fring. There are a number of other ones that'll give you a phone number that you can just rotate through, get a whole bunch from them and give them out to different services, which is also, again, a good canary. If you start getting calls on that number and you only signed up with it with particular services, then you know which ones were leaking that information. You can change your passwords often. I really recommend that you do that if you are, especially if they're like things that are for your bank account or, really important services. Also, using password vaults is another really good alternative because you could actually have really strong long passwords that you don't have to remember or write down on a Post-it note and put on your monitor. And the password vault itself will keep control of it. The only issue there is there's, again, one master password for that vault. Also, you can shred all identifying paper and mail so that if somebody decides to go through your trash, there's not going to be a lot of useful information for them to use. This is especially important to protect against financial ID theft. If there's some information for to sign up to get a new credit card or something like that, somebody could use one of those forms from your mail. Also, you could use differentiated information release. You don't have to, again, take pictures of your food where you're eating and post it right then and there. When you're on vacation, you don't have to be announcing before you're going on vacation when you're going on vacation. You don't have to upload pictures right while you're there. You could wait and upload them later. Again, that gives people information of pinning down where you are and what your patterns are. You can give false information, and it's fun there to have family and friends corroborate that, where you have information of a vacation that you went on or are going on, and you're not actually doing that. You can also cultivate multiple online personas and rotate through those, which is really useful, especially if you start mixing the data, because when they go to do a dox on you, they find lots of conflicting information, which really frustrates them and makes me happy to think about. Using VPN, of course, especially if you've got stuff that you're dealing with that isn't properly secured and sending stuff over the wire in plain text, like email. Email is not it wasn't designed to be secure. So using a VPN, put it on no split. You don't want to be leaking that DNS information. Also, consider using Tor, but it's really slow as balls, and it's not as slow as I2P. But it is slow, and it also is not a silver bullet, so don't just assume because you're using Tor you're anonymized completely. Don't use Skype. It's backdoored. We know it's backdoored, and we don't know who all has access to that. It also has a number of issues with it where people can just get your IP address or your email address, and they can reverse more information about you from your Skype account. And encrypt all the things. Use off-the-record, PGP, etc. All right, so real quickly, say you've already been doxxed. What do you do? So you mitigate the immediate danger, call 911 if you feel you're in immediate harm. File a police report. This will get the ball rolling and add legitimacy to if you have to do things later. Fully document everything, take screenshots, printouts, especially if somebody's saying, haha, I doxed you. You want to capture a record of that, and then start cleaning up the information that was leaked and used. You can even get a little insidious and use the DMCA to get a lot of that information taken down, because Google and other people don't actually go through to verify that a DMCA is legitimate or not. They'll just take down the information a lot of times. You can also employ credit watch services, ID theft watch monitoring. If there is ID theft or blackmail, the FBI takes that very seriously. So contact the FBI, especially if you already have a police report in place. You'll have that much more legitimacy. And if you're concerned about swatting, talk to your local police. There's been a lot of people who have been swatted and then talked to their local police, and then later SWAT attempts were thwarted just because they had that interaction and that knowledge with the police. So, that being said, I always want to hear of more examples from people of tools that they know of, methods that they know of, that leak our information, that we have something that we can do about it, that we can start to disseminate to more people. Again, I do want to add the caveat that this is not going to be one size fits all for all of these processes. If you're a very public person and that's part of your income, your risk matrix is going to be very different than somebody who wants to be a very private person. So you're going to have to look at all of the techniques and all of the ways to defend yourself and see if it really makes sense for you and your business. If anybody wants to send me information or get a copy of the slides, there's the email address, and I'm open for questions or comments.
With VPN and Tor, could you do both, in which order we should consider?
Yeah, so it depends on what your concern is. If you're concerned about your, say, ISP seeing that you're using Tor, which some ISPs are dicks about it and will throttle you or block you or something like that, you'll use the VPN first. That way all the traffic, including the Tor traffic, is going through the VPN channel and they won't be able to tell that it's Tor traffic. Again, that'll make things slower, so it depends on what you're doing. Okay. All right, so there's the email address, or come see me. I'll be around. All right, thanks a lot, guys.